Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem, and tonight we'll be doing another class in a series of classes on Sagittarius ascendant and Jupiter in the different signs. Tonight we'll be doing Jupiter in Pisces, and it's also an interesting combination. I'll tell you why. Because Jupiter in Pisces, first of all, Jupiter in Pisces is an honor. Right? Jupiter works very well in Pisces. It's the knowledge of the... and so it's double, because Jupiter is in the sign, is in a Jupiterian sign, because it's an honor in Pisces. Jupiter in Pisces is there's two planets that are connected. In mystical astrology, Jupiter is the sign of wisdom. And so wisdom you get from two ways. From the 9th house, which is the Sagittarian wisdom, which comes from knowledge, from higher knowledge, from a traditional source of learning, or from somehow through learning, or through a teacher, through accepted mystical wisdom passed down. And the 12th house, the Piscean wisdom, is the wisdom that comes from suffering. Through suffering, the person also gets a lot of wisdom, right? What do they say? What's the expression? The booby prize for suffering is wisdom, right? Something like that. I've heard an expression like that. But it's more than a booby prize. I think that's what, the suffering is coming for a person to really help them to get to a level of wisdom, and also to purify them from their sins, and to understand where they went wrong, and to change their behavior. And so it's much more than a booby prize. Sometimes it can be the major impetus for improvement of a person in their life. Most people go through major changes because of suffering, not because of the good things that happen to them, but they undergo their beneficial changes through their suffering. And so in that sense, it's Jupiter in Pisces is excellent. And so a person who's got Jupiter in Pisces with Sagittarius ruling, for the most part, Jupiter will fall in the 4th house, which is the home and the family and the end of life. And so you can expect that a person who had this combination came from a supportive background, and had good parents, and it's excellent for the end of life, and it's good for the end of life, because you have the Jupiter in honor there in the second half of life, and so, like you say, if you know the person's going to end, you can more figure out the road there. So it's nice in that sense. Of course, Jupiter could be tremendously harmed by other planets that we don't know. But in a general way, Jupiter in the 4th house is going to be nice. Right? Especially Jupiter is the best house. Jupiter works exceptionally well in the 4th house, because in Adam Rishon's chart, the 4th house has Cancer there. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. You like a home that's full of wisdom and peace and harmony. And expansiveness, all those things are very, very important to the person in this lifetime. They'll experience a lot of these things with Jupiter in Pisces. And so again, it's going to be sometimes it can be a little bit conflict, because Jupiter will be square the ascendant. Sagittarius is not the most emotional, and it's not the most homebody. Remember, Sagittarius likes to be out on the road. It's connected with the sign of travel, distance journeys, religious ventures, and stuff like that. While Jupiter in the 4th house means the person wants to fulfill themselves. Ruling planet in the 4th, they want to fulfill themselves through their home and a family. And when being in Pisces, it says regishut. Also very emotional, very emotional type word, and Sagittarius is not that emotional. So there are conflicts in the fact that Jupiter in Pisces is square to the is square to the ascendant. You always have to look, and then always the planets in 4 and 10 are going to be square to the ascendant. But that's a growth process, because that's how you separate from your parents. The parents are 4 and 10. If there wasn't conflict with the parents, the person would never break away from them. So there's that impetus to break away. But in any case, so there can be, I think there's going to be a little bit of difficulty again with the Jupiter. Is on one hand they want to be a homebody, on the other hand they want to, take the high road, take long journeys and stuff like that. Tonight I want to look at a chart of a famous woman. I don't really know her, I never heard of her, but her name, just looking on the internet, I found her chart, and her name is Judy Foster, a very famous actress, from what I understand, and we have a horoscope here, and it's an interesting chart because she has also the Jupiter in Pisces with the Sagittarius. But here is an example of what let's take a look at something that can block a person's fulfillment of what they are, right? And she's a very successful woman, and you see it's nice to have the ruling planet in honor. You get respected. She has the ruling planet is in honor, but if you look carefully at her chart, you'll see right away a couple of things that are impeding her. So you have to look, this is an important chart. She has an important chart because you can see things, you want to see what the person's capable of, and then you want to see what can block it, what can impede it. Impediments to success, I would call it something like that. What are impediments to success? So if you look at her chart, the first thing that sticks out is that she's got 4 planets in the 12th house, in the house of suffering, right? And the 12th house is always the enemy of the ascendant, the secret enemy of the ascendant. It's the house of personal undoing. It's the house of sickness, illness, things like that. So you look at her chart, she's got 4 planets there: Neptune, Venus, Mercury, and the Sun, all in the very powerful sign of Scorpio, the most highly emotional, most secretive of the emotional signs. So you see, she has deep secrets in her chart, and they can impede that. So in her chart, I just found out, if you look at her chart, see the ruler of her 10th house is Venus, and it's in detriment in the 12th house. So there's going to be hiding things, and right, she has secrets, and it turns out that I'm just reading now, she just came out of the closet, right? She's a lesbian, and I guess she lived with a woman for about 15 years now. They have 2 kids. I don't know how. I guess they adopted them, and they just broke up, and I guess there was an award ceremony, and she came out, about the age of 50. So you see how much of a deep diva she must have, and she's been famous for a long time. She was born in 62. She's exactly 50 years old. And you see how difficult it was for her, even at the age of 50, to come out and admit it, because a lot of other women, it's no big deal. They just come out and say it, and they go on with their lives. But for her, it was such a deep emotional thing that she managed to contain it, because it's all those planets in Scorpio in the 12th house, and so that naturally is going to impede her home life, right? It's going to impede. See, she has Jupiter not in the 4th house, actually. In her chart, Jupiter, it's distorted the chart, right? And you look at her chart, there's no good connection between the 1st house and the 5th house. The 5th house has Taurus on the cusp, and the ascendant is fire, and there's no connection between 1 and 5, which indicates that the person has romantic difficulties, right? Always you look at that for romantic difficulties. And Instead, they try to work out their problems through their home, but she has Mars. She has Aries in the 4th house, and Mars is in the 8th. So it's not such a good 4th house so much. It's more her Jupiter works more for her career, for her career-wise and for home-wise, although it'll have some influence on her home because it's 4 signs from the ascendant. But in any case, another impediment in her chart, as long as we're looking at it, is a very powerful Uranus-Moon conjunction. They're almost exactly conjunct, which makes for a very, very difficult for man-women relationships in any case. Right? It's inability difficulty to deal with intimacy. There's always tends to be breakups and things like that with the opposite sex because the moon loves their freedom and they don't want to be attached. In a woman-woman or a man-man relationship, it's easier to have a non-attachment type of relationship. There's not that much feeling of mutual attachment and is much easier to get out of, I think, than in a opposite sex relationship. And so anyway, I've seen that a lot though with a strong Uranian influence, especially with the moon in people who have same-sex type of relationships. And so together their heart chart, together that plus all those planets in Scorpio in the 12th house, she must suffer tremendously emotionally, the woman. And it must be very difficult for her in any case. And I thank everybody for listening.